So, welcome to Finding Out with Annie G. This is going to pass for a pilot. My friend Tino Contreras agreed to help me figure out the controls to Zoom, to figure out how recording would work, and to get a handle on the controls. And we did that. Congrats to us. This was not written. This was the amount of preparation. We'll call it minimal. But the conversation that unfolded between he and I over the course of just kind of hanging out on Zoom and figuring out what podcasting might look like, as that conversation unfolded, it was so fun that I can't, reasonably not call it a pilot. So I'm editing it all together. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to edit it all together. And congrats. Welcome to this podcast, and let's see how everybody likes it, because I am having a blast already, and I hope that comes through. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Finding Out with Annie G. I am here with my boy Tino Contreras, Mr. All Terrain Working Dogs. He is a cool ass dude. He runs a ranch, like a small ranch that is incredibly focused on raising cool ass working dogs and self-sufficiency with regards to providing a lot of your own food, which is a thing I'm very into. And so I wanted to bring him on, as we have so very much in common and a cool ass friendship, and have a conversation about what it is like to get ready before California fire season on a ranch in Northern California. They have a lot of dogs, they have a lot of livestock, they got children. Like, it's important to be ready for fire season. So Tino, thank you, homie, for
Oh,
doing this with me. I appreciate you.
thank you for having me on.
Man, like, getting this started is like a process, and part of it is just figuring out how even to have people on. So I really appreciate your support. So you were telling me before we got this recording kicked off that you are doing a lot of trying to get your animals to graze down the vegetation on your property just to kind of get it ready so there's less burnables during fire season. Hit me, bro. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so obviously in Northern California we have a huge issue with wildfires. And what's scary is that you don't truly understand how fast a fire can move and how
Yeah.
fast from zero danger to holy crap, we need to roll out now.
Yeah, like
And
evacuation tier scary.
yeah, before this I lived down in Chico, and sure there was a couple fires like the Paradise Fire that was huge, but I
Yeah.
lived in Chico, we were right next to each other. There was never immediate threat, right? And then before that I lived in Orange County, and before that LA. So I had it's just
Sure,
wild.
like you're a Californian. Like, you're Mexicano, pero you're from
Yeah.
California.
And so living in LA, I never worried about fires. I would worry about
Right.
anything fire. So the first time I moved up here, you know like I started seeing fires pop up every year, and it was just scary close, scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, so I mentioned I had a little tiny anecdote. You remember I used to live in California back in '08, like right before Obama first got elected. Like, that was kind of the period I was living there. And when I moved to the Bay Area from Alabama, where I was living before that, straight up the whole Bay Area was on fire. Like, you couldn't see the sky for all the smoke. It was like moving to Mars. And I moved out there and I was like, what have I done? But there was no turning back, apartment was rented. So straight up, I was like, okay, let's go. But those fires in California, we get them here in Texas, but a little bit every so often. It is nothing quite like the apocalyptic scale of the wildfires in California. What do you have the animals doing to help mitigate the risk of that?
so we like to graze our animals. So just
Yeah.
a little of that. Everything we have here is for the dogs, and
Right.
obviously too. But our mindset was get the cattle to teach the dogs to drive cattle. To get goats and sheep for herding purposes and all that, and obviously to feed them as well and feed us. But a great secondary effect that the animals have is that we actually get to use them to make our house a little bit more fire ready, right? Um,
Are you familiar with the concept of a food forest? Is that a term that has ever floated across your consciousness?
Yeah, so like, well, I might be wrong, but like the Joel Salatin stuff.
I mean, I
Like,
don't know specifically who that is, but the idea is essentially the notion of interplanting useful food plants within your kind of greater natural environment. It sort of becomes very self-sustaining,
yeah, yeah,
and I like you guys have quite the variety of what I would describe as ruminants. Like y'all have goats, sheep, chickens, and cows all on one piece of property. And do they generally go for different types of vegetation?
yeah, definitely. So like, like for instance, the sheep, I got
Oh, I
freaking
don't
chicken.
mind. I got them chickens out back. That's a normal noise to me. I don't know. Oh, hi. Is that a hen or a rooster?
It's a hen. Just trying to find a place to roost. They're all free ranging here, so we'll
Sure.
be, and all of a sudden we'll bump into a nest or whatever.
With my terriers being loose as often as they are, I cannot reasonably intermingle my dogs and my birds in an unsupervised fashion. Like I'll be there, it'll be a bloodbath.
Yeah, my terrier's not allowed unsupervised outside. I mean,
Yeah,
is
I don't have a kennel set up for my terriers to intermingle with my chickens. So it's like either the chickens are penned up or the dogs are. There ain't no in between.
yeah, no, for sure, I get it.
But
Um,
anyways, you were about the vegetation. I'm sorry, we
yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, so like the sheep, they're like lawnmowers. They stick to the
sure,
grass. They just mow, right? The
right.
sheep, you know what I mean? They like to like snack on like the bushes and like any branch from a tree they can reach.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing. They're very good mowers, but they also reach up to the trees and they'll pick whatever they can. And obviously, since they're taller, they can reach a little bit higher. We
Sure.
also have horses in the property. And then yeah, so like the way I like to think of it, they all get to eat and stuff, but also I'm fertilizing the land so it becomes healthier next year.
Sure.
We rotate too, so like they're not just hitting one spot every single day, which I think is really important because you let the grass heal, you let the grass grow, because you
Yeah.
can overeat
You
and
can
then you start pulling.
absolutely overgraze. That's how the Sahara expands every year.
Yeah. So like obviously we don't want to do that here. So we try to do it in a way that's smart.
Sure. And that presumably prevents fire from encroaching too far on your property because there's not a lot of dead like vegetation and all of the fertilization is coming from just like the natural byproducts of the animal's presence on that space.
Exactly. So it works out. Everybody wins. Like the way we're trying to make it is so that everybody wins. The environment wins. We
Yeah.
win. Um,
It's a
and
circle of life if you're doing it right.
yeah, exactly. Like eventually, I would like to get like some sort of like hydroponic set too, where I have fish, and then the fish waste, feeds plants, and then those plants can feed the fish and the other animals as well.
How much
And
does it
obviously,
rain?
it honestly, dude, it used to rain a lot. Like the last like fucking 8-10 years has been shit. Like,
It's
I've,
climate change, man. It's coming for us all. Climate,
dude,
like
it's
there ain't no running from there. You can run from a lot of things, but climate change ain't among them.
yeah, dude. Like you have, yeah, like we have a well, and like I'm super happy that we don't have to tap into city.
You're not wrong, man. Before I bought my house is a 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood on half an acre. Like that's my house. As I live in like a regular suburban neighborhood in a town on the edge of the Austin metroplex for now. Like we'll see, because Austin and San Antonio are very much growing together, and where I live is right in between. But before I bought this house, I was in kind of what we'll call an alternative living situation that I was renting a bedroom in a single wide trailer in a gypsy camp on the edge of town. It was like this piece of property that wasn't within city limits, and like rent was $300 a month. And I was like, shit, I'll take that. And then I was in an apartment for a while, but then I bought this house. But one of the properties that was in the running, if you will, when I was looking to buy something instead of getting out of the rental cycle, it was just a blank 2-acre field. It was a blank 2-acre field. And oh, how I wish I could have made it work. But I was going to have to run electricity. I was going to have to put a building on it. I was going to have to run electricity to that building, put in septic, and have a well dug. And the well was where it tapped me because I live on a rock. Like the hill country ain't nothing but a big ass rock with ridges on it. and it was going to be like $30,000 because they have to drill. It was like something like $1,000 a school, like a foot or whatever it was, and they were gonna have to drill 300 feet deep to tap the aquifer that lurks below the rock shelf. And I just like, when we added up the building, the septic, the electric, all of it, it was just like, oh, I can't. So I bought a house in a neighborhood like a chump.
Well, I mean, I hope you like your house.
I love my house, I really do, but I don't like living this close in town.
Yeah, dude, honestly, like that's invaluable though. I will say this, like living out here in the ranch and like not having neighbors like right next to you, it's awesome.
My neighbors are the sweetest people in the world on one side and utter trash on the other. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Most of my neighbors are really fucking cool except one fucking crazy lady.
Oh, there ain't, you know what, like if there, I feel like when the gods created the earth, they just created an even distribution of idiots and assholes across the entire thing to keep things spicy.
Yeah, maybe she thinks the same of me though, so whatever.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I love you to death, dude, but like, I'm sure that there are personalities with whom you do not necessarily mesh. I'll put it that way.
Plus, they're complaining because I have dogs fucking barking and biting people all the day, So
I mean, I have my giant bite work dog. He's asleep on the rug right there. But like, when people like I'm from Austin, right? And I come from like the liberal side of the world, we'll call it, like culturally, so to speak. I'm like a festival hippie. And like the pandemic happened, and then I was like, I would like to get my dream dog now. Okay, thanks. And came, like I did a couple lessons in IGP, and I joined an IGP club for a while. And then I got into PSA, and PSA has so much more civil work. And for the folks who don't know what civil work is, a dog that is considered to be civil in protection is a dog that will bite on someone without any gear on them of any kind. They're biting, like live biting people. PSA includes a lot of hidden sleeve work in like the carjacking scenario. And like, there's a few scenarios like the attack on Handler where the decoy may not necessarily be in like a visible bite suit. And when I tell my delightful love and light friends that like I spend my weekends like with my dog, like biting people, like people on purpose. Like they do not know what to do with that tier of recreational violence.
Yeah, no, I get it. People, yeah, I get it. A lot of people, same thing.
It's recreational violence. It really is. And to deliberately, like, they don't understand that when you train a dog for this kind of work, like safety and control are at the very core of it. Like it doesn't matter how flashy it looks when a decoy catches a dog. Every step of the way, you're developing the grip, you're developing the targeting, you're developing mindset. It's a ton of work to get a dog to the point of being useful.
Yeah, controllable.
What's it like running livestock with Belgians?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's what you would expect, to be honest.
Like something my breeder told me with Cairo, because before I got into bite work properly, before it became an obsession for me, I wanted to get a German Shepherd because I wanted my, like, what I would call my Goldilocks hiking dog. I have always had this like idea of like God's outdoorsman's dog that's like doesn't really want to take off on you, is controllable in the face of stimulus like wildlife, has enough courage that if, like, I camp alone a lot, and I'm a 5'3" woman, and all that really has to happen for that to become a problem is for the wrong person to notice a short woman by herself in the middle of nowhere. Like, they don't need to know very much about me for me to become reasonably a target. Yeah, and having a dog with me, for one, diminishes the amount that those people perceive me to be a target. Half of his job is just to stand there being a big dog. But if somebody came into a tent in the night, having a little bit of help is a benefit. And so that's what I wanted to get a German Shepherd for, was to be a buddy in these potentially questionable situations. But then it became a matter of like, I'm a person who lives in a house who has one of these dogs, and I need to provide outlets so that his purpose is fulfilled. And dog sports is really a vehicle for that for me. It's for giving him something to do that's useful, that makes him feel needed, and all of the things. And I was looking at a variety of activities, herding among them, because I firmly believe in the shepherd background. Like, it's a German shepherd. It literally, they are a sheep herding dog from Germany before they were ever a military working dog. They were a herding dog. And I believe in that part of their background. But what Christine told me is something along the lines of like, it is like trying to control a jet with a kite string.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and like obviously like most of my dogs are Mal Shepherd mixes, so
Sure.
I get a little bit of a Shepherd, thank God. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, it's like, you know, like it's so hard for me to get to slow down. Well, now it's gotten easy, but after fucking, you know, like almost 2 years.
Yeah. Well,
But
Boogie, how old is Boogie?
he's like 2.5 years old.
So he's probably just starting to get a brain then.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, I would tell him like, you know, like whatever cue, and like let's say like walk up, which is supposed to be like take a step forward, you know. And he couldn't help it. He would take like four. It's just, you know.
Yeah, like there's something that happens whenever I tell Cairo to out off of anything. Where
Yeah.
my trainer Will and I have him up to reasonably outing off of a sleeve. Like we've been back tying him on a table, and then and I cue him into drive, and Will comes in, and we've been working the bicep targeting off the back tie on the table. And then Will slips the sleeve, and I take it and play a little bit of tug, and then I cue him into basically like hold and make him steady hold it, and then cue him into the out, so that and I'm trying to get him to pop off of it calmly. It's like it's creating a lot of steadiness on the bite. But there's this period of time I can see every time I cue him on the out where it's like buffering. Yeah. And then he pops off. It's like it takes him a moment to think through that drive. And I'm sure being back tied on a table, like it's probably a little bit of a mix of prey and defense drive. Well, I'm not great at drive reading. I've got to be real with you. I'm not great at it.
Yeah. So like, in my opinion, it depends on the dog. Like I'm sure like if it's like the first time ever on it, maybe. But I mean, like I had a police dog not so long ago, and I mean the first time ever on the fucking table, he put him up, and I mean, there was no defensiveness about it. It was just like very like prey, until I added pressure, and then it started. You know, you start changing, you start going back and forth through that. But it could be just pure prey. It just depends on the dog.
I mean, he is like, I admittedly will stand there with like a handful of food and just tap him on the back with the clatter stick while I hand feed him. Just tap, 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 tap. Or like I'll wave the can curtain and then throw a piece of food through it, and his job is to go through it. It's just they're just little tiny sessions that I do of nothing but deal with pressure, here's a reward. Deal with pressure, here's a reward. And between his natural genetics, like Cairo loves the fight. He doesn't really respond to pressure. Like I think it's gonna, like once I have him all the way built up, he's gonna be hard to run. His natural tendency is to lean into the fight. Part of why I took him off of legs and put him onto biceps is he naturally wants to pop up into the decoy. His natural tendency is to go up into the body. And so I was like, fuck it, put him on the bicep. He doesn't really ever want to slip a grip. If you add like the clatter stick or the rattle thing that they make, the laundry jug full of pennies, yeah. That thing. When he was a puppy, I used to take him and do like R+ obedience at a gun range.
Okay.
And he's just never really like, I do obedience with him around like table saws, running, just noise, as much noise as I can find, like noise and density of people. And he doesn't really ever demonstrate what I would describe as, he doesn't get flat as a consequence of that environmental stuff. I haven't specifically added gunfire to bite work yet, but his overall response to environmental pressure is neutrality. And so like, I don't exactly know how that like translates into the bite work from the back tie on the table. Something about that seems like like maybe this is me anthropomorphizing and projecting a little, but I'd feel like I was in a little bit of defense just because of the nature of the back tie and the enclosedness.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in my opinion, I think too, anything you do with your dog is like throwing a little extra tool into that like tool sack that he has, right? So like everything's intertwined, even if it has something to do with bite work in some way, it does affect it. You know,
Yeah.
if you start exposing your dog to a lot of shit and you start teaching your dog to work through things, you teach your dog that it can fucking win, and you expose it to a lot of shit. That's all stuff you're adding in, and whether we like it or not, I personally think that all that shit does add on. You know, and it does.
Yeah. Like he's essentially the thesis, if you will, behind how I have raised my dog and how I always kind of raise my dogs is that the solution is always to double down into the target behavior. Like whatever behavior I put you into, if you want to be marked and rewarded for it, the solution is always to double down into whatever it is. So like if it's in the heel, you know, like more up, more like to give me just another little 10% of up and flash, and that's the target behavior. Always double down.
Yeah,
And I think that like, and Cairo's genetics very much like lend towards this, especially in the bite work. He's not a fearful dog at all. And he's just like not susceptible to pressure in some ways. I mean, honestly, in any way, he is handler hard. He does not care how I feel about anything. It's just interesting to me. Like I've raised him to think he can win at all times, and so there is nothing he doesn't just fling himself into.
yeah, for sure. It's good puppy raising.
He's a cool dog though, and it just always feels like a crime to like squash their potential through like not setting them up for success.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
I have a friend with he's from the esteemed breeder Craigslist. He's a Malinois GSD mix, and so far he doesn't swim. And I'm like, I think I could probably get that dog to swim.
That's
And
good.
she was like, how? And I was like, well, I've taught my dogs to swim the same way. Every last one of them, and every dog I've ever had would swim. She's like, what did you do? I was like, I dropped their ass on a lake and then I swim to the other side of it. Yeah. I drop them on the bank. I go, come on, puppy, let's go. You can do it. And then I leave their asses behind and I go stand on the other bank. It's not a distance that they're going to drown. If they need a float coach to figure out the mechanics of swimming, I have no problem providing that. It's not about them losing. It's about setting them up for conquering the mental block they have towards the activity.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of tools I need to use to help them through it, but it's about like putting some fucking skin in the game and being like, you coming or not?
Yeah.
Sure. And like, if that dog has any amount of relationship to you, they're going to follow you. And what they're going to learn in that swim, and it needs to be long enough that they will learn this lesson, is that I didn't die. I won. Yeah. I beat the game. And if you can just make them beat the game at whatever it is, but they have to do it of their own volition. You can't carry them into the water and make the decision for them. It has to be, you have to set the game up so that they make the choice that you want. They win. And it was a big deal to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say that I always look for conscious decisions.
It's always, and like dog training is all about setting the dog up to make the choice that you want them to make, and then making the outcome of that huge.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I've been very lucky that every time I've had puppies around, we've lived somewhere where we have like streams and stuff. So for us, it's very easy to teach a dog to swim because we'll take them to like the super tiny streams and just have them cross it, and it's literally on our way to get to like the main fucking water source. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like as through that little hike up towards it, they're having to first dip their feet in, and then they go all the way up to like their shoulders, and then by the time we get to the main water source, they're all swimming.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to approach it. I tend to make it a little bit more of a high stakes game, but that is a good approach.
Yeah, I found
I,
that too, but I've literally like the
like, let's
past,
go. Like what
yeah,
and part of it is that like where I would like to go is on the other side of this lake, and you need to be able to swim it.
yeah.
But it's like a safety issue as well. Like, what are the rivers like where you live? Are they like
Uh,
fearsome?
no, I mean, well, there's a little bit of everything. Like, there's even some that you could like do, like whitewater rafting and stuff. But
Sure.
obviously, like, there's just so many little streams here,
Yeah.
creeks and stuff that, like, I mean, we literally have a creek that runs through our property. Um,
Oh, I wish.
it's seasonal, but whatever. So like,
Yeah. So it's
we
kind
have,
of an arroyo half the time. It's like kind of
yeah,
it's dry as hell.
yeah, and then
Word.
like literally going out from where we live, there's another creek that's pretty big, and I mean it has fish in it and everything, and so like we literally drive 5 minutes up, and we can just dump all our dogs there, and we.
Alabama is like that. When I lived in Alabama, that is where I developed this method of teaching puppies to swim is Alabama, because Alabama is it rains 3 times a week, every week. Oh my gosh, I can hear my cat asking me to come in the house. She's outside, and I can hear her little squeaky paws on the back door.
Like, let
Um,
me
yeah, just excuse me. Did you know that I'm still outside? Just trash out here. It was great 10 minutes ago, but now trash. Any hoodle. Uh when I was 21 years old, walked into the SPCA of Texas in all my wisdom. And, like I was 21, I'm 36 now. It's been a hot minute ago, but like I knew about the Volhard temperament tests and stuff like that. So I kind of temperament tested a litter of puppies, and I lied my ass off to my mother about this. My mom and I went to a movie, and there was like a adoption drive going on outside, and I saw this little Australian shepherd, like it was like a blue Merle Australian shepherd puppy that I was just like about. And then I went back up and I told my mom, I was like, I want to go adopt that puppy. And I went back up to the shelter, and he had already found a home, because of course he was a blue Merle Australian shepherd puppy. So I found a cattle dog litter. Like it was a cattle dog lab mix litter, so said the paperwork. And I just temperament tested all of them and came out with this puppy Guinness. And I lied to my mom and was like, this is the puppy from the movies. But then I went back to Alabama like 2 months later because I was in college. This was where I was going to school. And like my hippie friends and I, like my friend Kim, also had a puppy about the same age. And we just went and like smoked weed by the lake and like taught our puppies to swim. And I was like, he wouldn't do it, and he wouldn't do it, and he wouldn't do it. And then I was like, fuck it. And I just left his ass behind and distance swam it across the lake. And he was like, ah, and followed me into the water. I know, Kyra. Hang on. Apparently, I need to go let the cat in. So saith the shepherd. One moment. I'll be right back. Hang on.
Yeah, you're good.
20 minutes of troubleshooting later, and a non-zero amount of conversation drift. Okay, so after some minor technical difficulties, partially caused by a cat and partially caused by my own ADHD, I have no fucking clue what we were talking about before the minor technical difficulties. I got wrapped up in fixing it. But nonetheless, like, I feel like we were kind of like into the useful nature of dogs. And like, I feel like the overall kind of crux of it is like, to me, human beings aren't separate from nature. I feel like a weird side effect of like environmentalism and save the environment and all of that is that people tend to like look at the world around them as some sort of like a Fabergé egg, like may we never touch it. And I tend to perceive myself and my dogs and your livestock and all of it as participants in nature. Like, I'm sorry, but due to world history, there ain't no untouched parts of the world, really, at this point. Like, human beings, like, we are what we are. We do what we do. But
Yeah.
what I really enjoy about how y'all run your ranch, that kind of the circle of life thing that we were kind of getting at before, is that, like, how do I say this? The management and the stewardship of the space through the intelligent use of livestock and the use of that livestock to improve the land against fire and what have you, like that is like a beautiful, nearly indigenous form of stewardship. And I find that idea of stewardship to be very important. Like the way that we train our dogs to be useful and the way that we like interact with animals, not as like separate, but like through this like perspective of understanding. That's what we were talking about. We were talking about bite work dogs.
Okay.
We were talking about dog training. Like something I'm like really taking from like working with animals longer and longer is like the ability to like step into a space, whether that be the kennel of a dog or a new training center or a ranch or a new piece of land, and try to figure out where I like slot into that as like a useful contributor.
Yeah, I mean, it's like just with everything with any animal, it's like it all kind of like, it's simple. Like people always ask me like, oh, how is like, is it harder to have this type of animal or having this type of animal, or like how do you know what to do? It's like it's all the same stuff, dude. The same rules apply.
Instinct is a very real thing that begins to develop when you like, I understand. So my dog training mentor, if you will, is a friend of mine who has competed in dog sports at a very high level. His name is Clay Fonvielle. And like, he is not without his own haters, etc. Like when I mention I'm friends with this guy, sometimes people have a response and I never understand why, because he's never been anything but really nice to me. Even when it brought him like no benefit. Like I'm nobody. I don't have a billion Instagram followers. I've never stood on a national podium. Like helping me doesn't do anything for him. And yet he does it. And the reason I'm volunteering at the animal shelter is because he told me that if I wanted to develop as a dog handler, I needed to go get my hands on a lot of dogs, as many dogs as physically possible. And he was like, you need to go volunteer at the animal shelter, any animal shelter. And so I chose the municipal one in the name of, like, I feel like with rescues, a lot of the times they kind of filter the dogs that they'll take in. Like there's an inherent filter of like, what can we place? What can we get a good like adoption fee out of to keep this rescue afloat, etc. And a municipal animal shelter doesn't get to have that kind of choice. They just take what they get, and those are the dogs. Like what if it was walking down the side of the road, it might be in there. There's no filter whatsoever. And because I brought it up in the orientation, I was like, this is not my first leash I've ever picked up. Like my dad bred hunting dogs. I'm into bite work dogs and working terriers. Like I feel like a pretty advanced dog handler. I would like the ones that other people won't walk.
Yeah.
Like those are the ones I'm here to see, or the scarier end of your spectrum.
Yeah, for sure.
I really like those dogs. I think they're fun. I think they're cool. But something that is becoming very incredibly apparent in, like, I walked 4 dogs today, is how fast you have to read those animals and then adjust to whatever. Like maybe they're a little touch sensitive around their neck. Maybe this one really is a little bit resource guardy about the toys. This one really likes food but pulls like a son of a bitch. This one's a little bit, like the range of energy levels and drives and motivations. And like you step into a 3 foot by 3 foot kennel with a little outdoor run, maybe if the dog is lucky and ended up in one of the good buildings. You step in there and it's like you and this animal, and you just got to figure out what is going to be the lowest stress version of this experience for both of you. And you have to figure it out in an instant. You just read it and respond.
Yeah, no, you have to. But that's I think like it goes back to that thing about instinct that you were talking about, because I feel too with animals, like you either have it or you don't. And I think if you usually, like when I see good handlers, it usually like they're good at it with like any other animal. Like I was super nervous to get into horses because I was blessed growing up. Like we had great horses. Like every horse we had was a kid safe horse.
Brujo is a little bit different, huh?
Yeah. And like like I ride all the horses here and stuff. And like
how many are on y'all's property?
Right now I think there's like 4, 5, 6. I don't know.
So that's what the deal was with that dark bay I saw that wasn't Brujo, because I didn't realize y'all had other horses on the property.
So that's the neighbor's horse. But so like Celeste and Uncle, they have like 4 more other horses and a mule. You know what I mean?
Okay, there's a mule.
Yeah.
How big is it?
I mean, she's a decent sized mule.
Like how many
Like
hands?
13 hands for, yeah, 13
Okay, so
hands.
she's not like a full, like a horse size mule. She's more of a pony size mule.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's big though. Like she's thick too. Like
No,
she should be
I just I recently became enamored of horse size mules because of Clay Newton,
okay.
the Bear Grease guy. You
Yeah.
know, like that dude's mules. I'm a little hypnotized by those mules.
If you want really cool mules, by the way, the Brazilians are doing it right.
Really?
Brazilians.
You know, I've seen their like Western dressage mules. Like the way that those guys handle like technical riding is so culturally distinct. Like
Yeah,
I don't know how else to describe it. Like with those ring stirrups.
yeah. Well, all their stuff is like super flashy. Like I don't know if you've seen like all their like bits that have like their rings coming out and stuff. Like,
Yeah, I don't. I love a simple, like anybody that can ride on like a simple snaffle or a hackamore almost gets more admiration out of me than somebody that can use like, like a long lever bit or something. Like they're beautiful pieces of metalworking, but in terms of what I consider to be like beautiful animal handling, I always love to see minimal tools.
Sure, I'm just talking about aesthetics, like
the aesthetic, unmatched on the aesthetics.
Yeah,
I mean the charros in Mexico, like they gotta look, man. That is a cultural like. It looks good.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, you want to know? I'm really excited. So I put up a post on the book face the other day as my like, hey, I don't have the cancer. I'd like to go do some trail riding, and I was just like looking for a recommendation of like a barn where I could like rent a horse, even just whatever. I just want to go ride a horse. I don't care really how I get there. But Karen Croyer reached out to me and she was like, hey, I'll get my trainer and a few people together and I have a gelding you can ride and we'll go around Lake Georgetown. So I get to go ride with Karen Croyer. And I'm just so thrilled that she even felt like I would be like worthy of riding her gelding. She's got a really nice quarter horse. She's got a really nice quarter horse filly. But that filly is like a classic like chestnut mare personality. Like, dear God. She runs around that round pen like she pays her own vet bills.
Yeah, I believe that. You get a lot of like thoroughbreds here too, and like the sport.
I love me, dude. If I like, okay, if dream horse talk, I would love to get a quarter horse thoroughbred mix. I bet that'd be a really fun like dressage and eventing horse, because like especially if it had that like quarter horse temperament, that like quarter horse willingness to work, and like that like because they're friendly, you know what I mean? Like a quarter horse is a nice friendly horse and they have a good work ethic, and that like, but thoroughbreds have like a certain amount of fire under their ass and a lot of go. And like I would love that like friendliness mixed with that go in a horse, with that like that just combined their builds. Like I love me an appendix quarter horse.
Like Celeste says that like German Shepherd, and I've always said that like quarter horses are the like the German Shepherds of the horse world.
They super are.
Yeah, and Celeste, we're joking around because we had a thoroughbred here not so long ago, and we were joking around that's like a Mal.
Yeah, they are like a Malinois. You know what I grew up around are Arabians.
Okay. Oh, see, I've had really bad experiences with Arabians. They tend to be fucking assholes, dude.
They can be, but I also like terriers, you have to understand. And they remind me of terriers a little bit. Like they're kind of like they got a certain amount of in it for them. Or it's another type of dog that reminds me of Arabians that you're gonna giggle at me for are huskies. Like, you know what it is about huskies that I admire? Because they suck to train.
Mm-hmm.
Because they suck to train. I've trained a few of them and they're garbage to train. But any animal that evolved in a place like Siberia had to have it out for themselves just to continue to exist.
Oh, I
Like,
get it.
like the history of Russia is best defined in the like the little catchphrase, and then it got worse.
Jesus Christ,
Right?
bro.
Like that's the history of Russia, and then it got worse. And Siberia is in the coldest, most barren part of Russia. And the Siberian Husky is the dog of the indigenous people of this region. Like, they're not very big. They can live on anything. They will find food where there is none. They will dig themselves holes to stay comfortable. They can run a million miles and they don't give a shit what you think.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I get it. I get it. Like
That's dog.
I don't want one, but I get it.
Yeah. And I mean, fuck, you're not gonna tell me, dude. Like, I think, like dogs are super useful, and I think I definitely admire dogs where like their working ability and the way they can impact your life is like huge. I love that shit.
Like I follow the Iditarod like it is what I would call like the Super Bowl for me. Like I follow the Iditarod. And I would love to get my hands on an Alaskan Husky. I don't want one forever. I just want one for like 2 days. I just want to like ride the lightning for a moment. Because
For sure.
are you familiar with these dogs?
Yeah.
Like they are very much bred by like racing kennels for one thing. Like that breed of dog came out of the Alaska sled racing scene. Like that's the only reason it exists. They are like, from what I can tell, they're a lot more biddable.
I mean, it makes sense. They're working in teams and stuff.
Well, yeah, but so are Siberian Huskies, but like Alaskan Huskies, there's a certain amount of like German short-haired pointer that they combined in there. And like, from what I gather, maybe a little bit of poodle floating
Oh,
around in their genetics, because like poodles have run like long distance sled races before. There's a few people that have run teams of standard poodles because they're just biddable. But they have to have like enough coat to deal with the cold, so there's a lot of obviously husky and malamute like floating around, and they're like the Cane Corso of the north.
that makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like the Cane Corso is definitely like, or I'm sorry, the Dogo Argentino. Dogo Argentino. Like how the Argentino is like 12,000 different breeds, and bam, the Argentino suddenly exists. The Alaskan Husky is like that, but for sled racing. They were like, no, throw some pointer in there. It'll make them fast. And now it's a concrete breed of dog, and there are two distinct bloodlines from what I gather. There are sprint dogs and endurance dogs. And so dogs that are like really good at the short races, they're like maybe 2-3 days, versus dogs that run like the 9-day 500-mile ones across the Yukon. So there's two like distinct racing bloodlines, but none of them are bred for show. None of them are bred for anything but sled racing. And they're kept in these like large kennels of like people with like 30 fucking sled dogs. And they're bred to run, and they're vastly more biddable than this. I just want to know, man. I just want to know, like, what are they like to deal with?
I mean, you could always fly out there.
I kind of want to go to Alaska. I want to go to Alaska for a few reasons. I would like to go salmon fishing. I would like to go moose hunting, and I want to see them dogs.
There you go.
That's like a $40,000 vacation, bro. Have you ever priced moose hunting?
Yeah, no, I figured it was in that range.
Yeah, I can't. I'll just be down here shooting my trash ass whitetails like a hillbilly. I'm good.
Yeah.
I've shopped at a Dollar General. I ain't got moose money.
Yeah. Dude, same here.
Do they have the Dollar General up there? Is that a thing?
Not where I live. Like our town is tiny, dude. Like literally.
I mean, like, I don't give a shit how small your town is down here. There will be a Dollar General. Dollar General will be like sniping 1-acre properties in the middle of ass nowhere. Like you put a trailer park up and a Dollar General's going up nearby.
Yeah, there's definitely like 99-cent stores and Dollar Generals, like
the yellow glow in the night.
Yeah, like
what is trash ass California's like brands? Like y'all don't have Waffle House, right? But like, what do you have?
Well, we do, but in SoCal, I don't think I've ever seen them out here.
No, a Waffle House is gonna be rare west of Texas, man. Like they might have them, but they're not like thick in the brush like they are in lower Alabama. You know what I mean? You run into a Waffle House every town. but like out west, they're like scarce.
Church's chicken is pretty fucking ghetto.
Churches, God, I haven't been in Popeyes is more my trash chicken
Yeah,
spot.
no.
We have a Churches or two, but it's not like you don't be seeing like videos on World Star pop up from a Churches. It'll be a Popeyes down here.
Listen, I've been to the one in fucking Oakland, and they had fucking bulletproof glass everywhere. So
bulletproof glasses. You know what? You know how you know shit's real in the South, because we don't really fucks with bulletproof glass. That's too much money. They bolt the furniture to the floor though.
That's hilarious.
Like that's how you know in the South. There's no bolt. If you walk in anywhere and the furniture is bolted to the floor, you need to get your shit and go.
You're like, you can't kill each other.
Nah, like the difference between a Denny's and a Waffle House. They're both open 24 hours and they both serve breakfast food, but church people go to Denny's and the floor and the furniture is bolted to the floor in a Waffle House.
Yeah, I bet.
That's the difference. And I'm Waffle House people 100%. Like I will go to the mattresses for my beloved Waffle House.
Heck yeah.
Like, by the way, how did that cheese turn out that you made? For those who aren't privy to our previous conversations, my homeboy here has goats, milks them, and then makes cheese out of the milk from the goats that you have on your land. Like you're just turning grass into cheese.
Well, it didn't make cheese. I did make butter though.
You made butter. I'm sorry. I apologize. Wrong dairy product. But regardless, is that in this? I'm in the right ballpark.
Yeah, definitely. Like I could make cheese if I wanted to. I really like butter.
I am going to legitimately in 2023, like not this year, because so my goal for beginning to trial in PSA is October. And I'm going to start at ideally the Canis Fortis Will Garrido's club, Canis Fortis PSA club. He and I are targeting for me and Cairo to start trialing in October for the PSA PDC and the PSA 1 at that trial. And then we'll see how long it takes me to finish the one. So for the 2023 trial season, I am legitimately hoping for a Northern California trial.
Hell yeah.
Like that's like if I make it out, it's going to be for a trial. Hell yeah. So I'm going to drag your ass out to the Bay Area. And if your ass don't bring me some damn goat cheese, I'm going to be profoundly offended.
No, for sure.
I like, for one thing, I just love fresh goat cheese. Like it's a thing in New Mexico because nobody can afford a cow. Everybody goat and sheep products are a thing in New Mexico. And I love goat cheese. It's so good in like salads with like a cranberry pecan balsamic bougie moment. Like, oh man, you throw a little goat cheese on there. It's so good.
Yeah. I like goat cheese, but I'm gonna be honest with you, like a lot of the store-bought stuff, I don't like it because it tastes like it smells like buck. And the reason why is
I don't mind that. I don't mind the weird gamey smells.
I'm not a fan of it. So what I do is like I separate my bucks from my does.
That's awesome. I bet it's got a lot cleaner taste.
Exactly. So what I do is like I don't let them interact unless I want to breed them. So when they are freshening and stuff after they give birth and they're producing milk, I take the bucks away. I put them in their own pen, and then I actually like clean up their udder. So I'll actually buzz up all the hair. I'll clean them every time. Nice. Every morning. After every milking, I use udder balm and all that stuff.
Oh man, you're crushing it. Man, I am that level of meticulous about my chickens as well. Like I just don't have the property to be that meticulous about my other animals because I don't have any other animals. like if I just had the sheer amount of property it would require. Like the joke amongst my friends is like if Annie had tiger money, Annie would have a tiger.
Tigers would be cool.
Dude, it'd be dope because I'd train them. I would. I'd be out there like, I know, buddy, you want to eat me, but no, that's not how this is going to work. You're going to jump through that hoop and then I'm going to give you a big ass piece of chicken.
I mean, that's cool, dude.
I just can't help it. I just I don't even really consider myself a dog person as much as an animal person. I love animals. Like my rooster, honestly is aggressive enough that a lot of people would cull him. Like if I'm being honest, he is aggressive enough with me that you'd probably cull him.
Okay.
But honestly, I kind of think it's hilarious. Like,
So
I'm like, yeah, square up, homie.
we have, like I said, we free graze, right? And we have
Right.
like at least 100 chickens.
Oh my
you know?
God, that's so many. I have 4.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. And like we have like, like fucking maybe like 10, 12 roosters out.
Wow, do they fight?
Yeah, every once in a while, like I'll upload videos of them. Like,
yeah, I've seen those
yeah,
actually. Yeah, they get mad.
they're just like wild fights. So like most of them, like 99% of them are like they'll fight for like literally 10 seconds and then it's just done. It's very rare where they'll actually like fight for a good minute.
Yeah.
Obviously at that point you got to break them up because like they'll literally kill each other out of exhaustion. They'll overheat and die.
Yeah. Birds are startlingly delicate. Like just the fact that like the temperature changed as quickly as it did and then I had laying issues is just like I reasonably need to go get oyster shell because I'm having a little lay strike again because I stopped supplementing it. It's like I need to supplement calcium this time of year for my chickens to lay.
Okay, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff they got to change with the seasons. Can you give me a second?
Yeah, no, my cat. I tell you what, I'm gonna pause the recording once more, just for the moment, just to mark we are at chickens, and I will probably edit this bit out. Spoiler alert: she would not edit everything out that she should have. Nor did I remember to hit the record button for the last bit of that conversation, much to my eternal regret. Tino's amazing partner Celeste joined us, and we had a marvelous conversation about German Shepherds. But alas, this was my first crack at anything podcast shaped. So I'm editing it together in the name of like, in order to begin, you must begin. You need to start publishing things, even if they're not perfect, even if it's not quite right. You're going to make more progress by doing than you are by obsessing over like what should a first episode look like. So while Celeste, I genuinely apologize that I did not grab our conversation through the Zoom recording, but thank you so much for joining me. Tino, thank you for facilitating me to get a handle on what the controls look like, what the process looks like. Thank you for providing me with enough content to edit together into anything whatsoever. I couldn't do it without the people who like support me in all my harebrained ideas. And isn't that just fucking around and finding out? Thank you so much to everyone who even thought about sitting through this. Tino, I can't wait to get a more refined version of this going so that your myriad thoughts can be captured in far more organized fashion than I did today. But thank you everyone for joining, and I'm going to take another swing at this, and we'll just keep seeing how it develops. Thank you so much. Have a good one.